Okay, so very good morning. My name is Dipinder Singh Virk, and as of as of as of this lecture, we are going to discuss about the various kind of data representation in Java, right? Why we need the data, right? What is a data? How to save a data into your computer system, right? How are the various different ways to save the data inside your computer system or inside your operating system, right? And which is the best and the convenient way to save, delete, read, or write the data in a fully organized way, right? So we will discuss about all these kind of things, and at last we will see that how to set up um, an environment to make use of JDBC API with your Java program, right? So here we have already initialized our Eclipse, and we do have a PPT. I made a PPT already on Java JDBC, right? So here the first question is why we need the database, right? I mean, why we need the database. See, this lecture is going to be a very interesting lecture because here we are actually going to implement the database, and we are going to interact with the MySQL database in real time right there from your Java's program, right? So I think you are already familiar with the various kind of database queries as far as MySQL is concerned, because you might have studied this subject database into your previous semesters. So I am assuming that you are all um, comfortable with the queries, right? So it will save a lot of time of us not to discuss about the queries, but to start right away with the database implementation, right? So why we need a database, right? How many ways are there to save the data into your computer system, right? Or how can we actually save the data, right? So the data can be saved basically in two ways in your computer system, right? The first way is to save a data in a file, right? The data can be anything. It can be in any form, right? It can be a video data, it can be an audio data, it can be a text data, right? It can be an image data, right? So most often we actually save, or we actually see our data in form of file, right? But sometimes we need our data to be very well organized, right? For an example, if I want to save the names, roll numbers, city, right, and the university ID, or for an example, the Wipro Telnext ID in your case, right, into a file, then it would be very cumbersome for me to actually read out the data from the database. Sorry, from the file, because in file we actually save the data in a sequential manner, right? And there is no specific mechanism to filter out the data when we want to read a specific row, or when we want to read data for a specific individual, right? For an example, I have made entry for 1,000 people in a notepad based text file, right? I have written the roll number, names, right, the phone numbers, the city, and the addresses of 1,000 students, right? And for an example, if I want to read out the details of the 900th student, right, then I think it will be really very difficult for me to search that particular student in my notepad.txt file, because I need to search it manually. I need to scroll down into that particular text file, and only then I can hit the desired information, right? So I mean to say that there is no automatic way, or there is no smart way to actually retrieve the data from that particular file. And on the other hand, the same is actually true in case of deletion, in case of update, right? For an example, if I want to delete the 900th entry, or if I want to update the 900th entry, then I need to scroll down a lot and lot. I mean to say that I need to jump deep down into the file, and only then I can actually reach to that piece of information, and only then I can be able to delete or update that particular line regarding a particular individual, right? So I mean to say that if we are not actually dealing with the database, or if we are not actually saving the data into the database, right, then it will be very cumbersome for us to read, write, delete, and retrieve and update the records of the individuals, right? So this is why we need the database, right? Not only database allows us to simplify our life in as far as the data read, write, delete, and update is concerned, but also it saves your data in an organized manner, right? In an organized manner, and also you can apply a lot of checks on your data, right? Like for an example, the primary key, the foreign key, and all kind of constraints, right? For an example, if you have applied a primary key on the table of your database, then the problem of redundancy can be solved. I mean to say that you cannot actually insert the duplicate data again, right? For an example, if XYZ is already present in your table, then you cannot again insert the same record in your table. So these are actually the various kind of uh, benefits of using the database, right? So there are a number of database out there in the digital market, right? You can make use of mysql, mariadb, right? You can make use of the Microsoft SQL server, Oracle is there, right? Or you can make use of PostgreSQL server, right? The Android and iOS makes use of SQL Lite databases, right? So I mean, you can make use of any of the available databases in the digital market, right? Provided that you should know about the queries related to the database, right? Once we are familiar with the queries, that how to read, write, update, and delete the data, or how to sort the data, how to selectively read, or how to read whole data in a one shot, right? Then we are good to go with the JDBC or the ODBC. I mean, JDBC actually a kind of mechanism that actually link your Java's program to your database. The database can be any database. It can be MySQL. As of now, in this example, in this lecture, we are going to use MySQL, but you can make use of any kind of database like Oracle, Microsoft SQL Server, or XYZ, right? So this is totally up to your choice. So JDBC, the term that actually starting with a J, is actually pointing about the database connector that is actually available for Java. So this is why this is known as Java database connector, right? Or in the simple words, most formally it is known as the Java database connectivity, right? So now we know that why we need actually the database. Why cannot we save the data into the files, right? So the next thing, I already explained that what is actually a JDBC, right? Why we need the JDBC. JDBC actually contains a lot of APIs to connect and execute the various kind of queries with the database, right? You can actually supply the data straight away from your Java's program to your database, right? Or you can get the data from your database right there into your Java program, right? So this is actually a duplex communication or a two-way communication, right? Okay, so this is a small diagram that actually denotes the working of the JDBC API with the Java application and the database, right? So we actually call some function in your Java program, function named, for an example, XYZ blah blah blah, and that function actually in turns in turns, I mean to say that that particular API or that particular method or function of JDBC in turns informs the JDBC driver to execute a specific function related to the database, right? For an example, if if my API is to read out the data from the database, then the JDBC API will actually instruct the JDBC driver to connect with the database and read out the data that is actually present into the database. Someone's mic is unmuted. Please unmute your mic. Sorry, please mute your mic. Thank you. Okay. So we can use Java JDBC API to handle database using Java program, and can perform the various following activities. The first is connect to the database. So this is the very first thing, right? Whenever you will start writing the Java program as far as your database is concerned, or while keeping the connectivity of your database, or while in order to deal with the database of your choice, the first and the foremost thing that you need to done with is actually to link your Java application with the database. So this is the very first step of your Java program. The second step is execute the various queries and update statements to the database. I mean to say that execution of the various queries of your choice. For an example, if I want to read the data of the table in one shot in my Java program, so I can execute that particular query. Or if I want to delete a data of a particular student or a particular record, then I can fire the delete query. If I want to update some record or a row inside my database, right, I can fire update query, right? So retrieval the result received from the database, right? So you can actually read out whole table of the database inside your console right there into your Java's program, right? Why do we prefer database to manipulate and save data over the file system? I actually already explained about this one, right? And now in order to deal with the database from Java program, first of all, you need to have a database management system installed in your computer, right? It can be MySQL, PostgreSQL, and Microsoft SQL Server, or Oracle database, right? So as of now, what we are going to do, we are going to install MySQL database into our system, right? So what we need to do now, we need to uh, we need to type into the Google like uh, XAMPP XAMPP installation, right? So XAMPP is actually a package from a company named Apache, right? So you need to click to this link, right, in order to download the XAMPP. XAMPP is actually a package that not only turns your laptop or a desktop system into a local web server, but also it provides you a database named MySQL, right? So MySQL database is already included in a XAMPP server. Or on the other hand, you can download Microsoft. I'm sorry, you can download standalone MySQL database server from the MySQL website, right? But I think this approach is really very simple and straightforward. So this is why I am actually instructing you to download the XAMPP in order to deal with the database, right? So you need to download the very latest version of the XAMPP, right? Over here, this is 8.0.8, right? So you need to download it from this button. What I'm going to do, I'm going to just simply copy and paste the link inside the meeting, so you can directly jump to this link and download this package. So this is the first thing that you need to do now, right? So please click on this link and download the XAMPP package, right? So while it is downloading, I'm going to explain you about the after shots. Uh, I mean, after the installation of the XAMPP, right? So we need to visit this website in order to download the XAMPP, and I have already sent you the link of the XAMPP in order to download it, right? So this is the screenshot of that particular website from where we are going to download that package. After that, you need to install the XAMPP, right? After installation, this is the third step. Launch XAMPP control panel after installation and start two very important services, namely Apache and MySQL, right? So Apache is a server, right? And MySQL is also a server. Whereas Apache makes your laptop or desktop system as a local web server, whereas MySQL makes your laptop or desktop system as a database server, right? So we need both, right? So here it's here you can see that we do have an Apache's control panel, or I need to search from here, right? Simply you need to type XAMPP, right, in after pressing your Windows button, right, and it will search XAMPP package for you. Okay, right. So there is a XAMPP control to execute this program. You need to run this program. And today my computer is a bit slow. So meanwhile, please continue to download the XAMPP server, right? While I'm triggering that XAMPP's control panel. Okay, so it's being triggered. Okay, here it is, right? So what I need to do, okay, the two instances of XAMPP are running, so I need to actually cancel one instance out of two, and here we are, right? And quit. Okay, whatever it is, we should ignore this, right? Okay, right. So I last time I accidentally actually ran two instances of XAMPP, so this is why it was an error, right? So here, please pay an attention if you are downloading your XAMPP server. Okay, let it being download, right? And over here, you actually need to install. Uh, Sorry, you actually after installing your XAMPP server, you need to start these two services, right? So first is Apache, right? So the service is being triggered, right? And the second is MySQL. Okay, so both services have been assigned with their process IDs as well as their port numbers, right? Okay, so we are good to go with our rest of the work. So simply, okay, so allow this access, right? And simply either you can minimize this control panel or you can cancel it from here, right? It doesn't make real difference, right? You can double click on this and you can still able to see that your Apache and MySQL are up and running, right? So simply click close, and after that what you need to do, so till now we have downloaded the package of XAMPP, and after that we launched the XAMPP control panel, and we started two services named Apache and MySQL. In the next step, what we need to do, we need to download the MySQL JDBC driver or connector file from the internet, that is actually in the form of jar extension, right? So what I'm going to do now, you do not really need to download it or search it from the internet. I already do have this connector with me. So what I'm going to do, I'm simply going to drag and drop this connector to the chats. so that you can download it. Okay. So this is actually JDBC connector, right? So this is what we need. So this JDBC connector will act as an intermediate between your database and your Java program, right? Please be informed that Java's program cannot directly direct the Java's program cannot directly communicate with any kind of database, right? For an example, you might have installed Microsoft SQL Server, or you might have installed MySQL in our case, right? Or any other kind of database, right? Until and unless you associate the specific kind of JDBC connector that actually matches with your installed database, your Java's program will not be able to communicate with your database, right? The database connector file is really very important file in order to communicate with from your Java's program with your database or vice versa, right? Your Java's program does not have a power or an authority or simply it does not have any kind of API or a method to directly communicate with the database without any kind of database connector, right? So MySQL has its own connector. The Microsoft SQL Server has its own connector. The Oracle has its own connector, right? The PostgreSQL has its own connector, right? However, the association of these all kind of connectors with your IDE is exactly same that I will teach you in the next step, right? So till now, what we did three steps, right? Firstly, we installed the XAMPP. Secondly, we launched the XAMPP control panel, and we started two services, namely Apache and MySQL. And after that, we downloaded or we have the JDBC driver, right, in form of .jar extension, right? So .jar means Java archive, right? So the .jar means the Java executable, right? For an example, if there is .exe for Windows, .apk for Android, right, and .deb for Linux, or .ipa for iPhone, then there is .jar for your Java, right? So this is the Java executable file. Anyhow, we don't need to execute it, but we need to associate this JDBC driver with your Eclipse IDE or with your NetBeans, whatever you're using right now. In my machine, I'm using Eclipse, so I will let you know that how to actually connect this driver with your Eclipse, right? So then after um, installing XAMPP, after triggering MySQL and Apache, and after downloading the JDBC driver, the next step is actually to include this JDBC driver in your project, right? So in Eclipse or NetBeans or whichever IDE you are comfortable with, however, as of now, we are going to use Eclipse as a part of this lecture, right? So these in this PPT, I have already included the various kind of screenshots step by step that actually teach that actually I'm instructing you that how to actually get done with the process of including that JDBC driver with your Eclipse, right? So what we are going to do in order to associate this JDBC driver with your Eclipse IDE, what you need to do, first of all, you need to create a project, the Java's project. In my case, I already created the test, right? And after that, okay, so first and foremost, I want to ask you that are you done with the downloading and installation of the XAMPP? Hello? Are you done with the downloading and installation of XAMPP? Okay, right. Okay, I think I should wait for every student to get done with the installation of XAMPP, right? Or I think I should continue with the lecture, right? I should continue with the lecture till the association of the file, right? And you can also follow all these kind of steps from my PPT. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to share my PPT with you so that you can instruct yourself um, with all the steps, right? And side by side, I will explain this PPT with you, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm simply going to drag and drop this PPT into the chat system of this Microsoft Teams so that you can get an access to this PPT. So in this PPT, each and every step is mentioned, right? That I am instructing you by now. Okay, so in Eclipse, in order to associate that particular JDBC driver with the Eclipse, right? You need to right click on your projects folder, right? Okay, so I right clicked on src file or src folder, right? And from here I can go to the build path, and here I can go to the configure build path, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to associate the jar file with my Java's program, right? So here I next step to click on the options of libraries, right? And after that you need to click on the module path, right? And after clicking on the module path, what you need to do, you need to add the external jars, right? Add the external Java archives. So you need to click on this button. After clicking on this button, it will browse you through your computer system, right? So just jump to the drive where you have placed your MySQL connector and open it or include it, right? Done. I'm done with this, right? As you can see over here that I have successfully included the MySQL driver or JDBC driver with my Java's program, right? So what I need to do next is to press this button, apply, and followed by apply and close. Right, I'm done, right? So if you look over here, if you have a glimpse over here, you can clearly see that the MySQL connector or the MySQL driver or the JDBC driver is now a part of my Java project, right? So we are done with the major part, right? We are all set with the communication of our Java's project with the database, right? Okay, so in the next step, we will have a look on the database graphically. I mean to say that what I'm going to do, I need to type something into the browser, right? And when I will hit click, when I will hit enter, it will open the various kind of available databases into the admin of my Apache, right? Okay, so till here now you're good to go with the programming of database queries in association with Java, right? So now after including your JDBC driver with your Java program, in the 10th point, type localhost in your preferred browser and hit enter as shown in image given below, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do exactly same thing that is actually shown into this image, right? So my preferred browser is Firefox. So over here, what I need to do, I need to type the local host, right? Make sure that you should activate the Apache as well as mysql before typing localhost, right? And only after that it will work, otherwise it will not work. Localhost means the local machine, right? My own computer, right? So as you can see over here, right? Because I activated the Apache from the control panel of the XAMPP server, right? Or from the control panel of the XAMPP package, so that Apache has made my laptop as the web server, right? So this is a kind of website, right? Or the index page of the XAMPP, right? And from here, what we need to do, we need to click on PHP my admin, right? We need to click on PHP my admin. Okay, so I clicked on this, right? So after this step, uh, it will let us see the various kind of available databases inside our computer system, right? Because the MySQL is already installed, right? Or we can create a new database, right? Either either we can make use of the existing databases, right? Or we can make a new database, right? Right. There we are, right? So this is actually the graphical demonstration of your database control panel, right? So here we do have a MySQL database, right? And blah, blah, blah. The various kind of databases, right? This is the sign of the database, right? As of now, yes, we can create a new database, but as of now, we are going to use this existing database test, right? So if I expand it, there is no table, there is no new table inside that test database, right? So I will click on this database, right? And I'm going to create a table, right? I am going to create a table, right? So see, there are the two ways to create a table. Either you write a query and fire it, right? Or you can do it graphically. You can do it by making use of your keyboard and mouse, right? So PHP my admin or XAMPP actually gives you this freedom, that actually makes your life simple while dealing with the database. Otherwise we have to go to the console, or we have to go to the terminal, and we need to select, or we need to trigger the database, right? And then we need to select the database. We need to type some query to create a table, and then we need to insert some values by typing, right? So PHP MyAdmin, or the interface of the XAMPP actually makes our life simpler as far as the database usage is concerned, right? So what I'm going over here, I'm going to create a table without even writing any kind of query to create a table, right? Otherwise, you can write a query over here, right? You can write the database query in order to do the database related tasks in PHP MyAdmin by making use of this console, right? However, you can do it by making use of your keyboard and mouse graphically from here, right? So the name of my table will be employee, right? So assume that I'm going to record the data for my various employees if I am an employer, right? And so these are the number of columns that I am going to use, right? So when I click go, it will ask me about the name of the various columns, right? So the name of the first column is actually the ID of an employee, right? So as you all are the students, so your university has already assigned you with the IDs, the university IDs known as the roll numbers, right? So exactly in the same way, when we work with the organization or a company actually assigns its its employees with the unique IDs, right? So so the ID is I mean, obviously a number, right? So it will be of type int, right? So the ID is always unique, so I can make it as a primary key from here, right? So I can make it as a primary key, right? So the size of the ID is, for an example, if it is a 10-digit ID, then you can I mean write it right over here as a 10. Otherwise, I mean as per your choice, right? So okay, so I have made one column as a primary key into this table, right? And there's no need to do further modifications, right? The next is the name of the employee, right? So the name of the employee. So the name is always the varchar or a text, right? So I actually use the text because the benefit of using the type text is that the text is actually dynamic. It is a kind of elastic. So according to the length of the name, it actually expands or shrink itself, right? So in case of varchar, you have to specify the length, the maximum length of the name, right? So okay, so please be informed that in one table you can only make one column as a primary key, right? So I already done with this process. I already made this ID column as a primary key, right? So now my table will not let me to repeat the same kind of record with the same kind of ID again, right? It will not let me save the same kind of ID again because I made the column ID as a primary key or a unique, right? Okay, so the next is the city. Okay, let us assume that there is XYZ city of our employee, right? So obviously the name of the city or the type of the city will be in the text, right? And after that, the employee has the phone number, right? So here we made it as a phone, right? So obviously, as far as the Indian phone numbers are concerned, or as far as the Canadian or American phone numbers are concerned, I think they goes up to the length 10 or beyond 10. So you need to consider big int, right? So the big integer, right? So as far as Java is concerned, if when we talk about the big int, we always relate big int with the long, right? So in Java, there is a data type named long, right? So in the same way in MySQL or in form of database, we always use big int or big integer for the the long length integers, right? So the phone number is obviously an integer, right? So I made use of the big int, right? So always make a column primary key which actually going to include the unique values, because the ID is always unique and the phone number is always unique, or the email IDs are always unique. So always consider these kind of columns as a primary key, right? So I am done with my table, right? So I can simply click on the save, right? Okay, so there is some error with some of the columns, so I need to rectify this. Or let us not to make our column as a primary key. Right. So I didn't consider any kind of primary key with my column, with my table. So as you can clearly see the structure of my table, right? So here we do have the four columns. The first column is ID, the second is the name, the third is the city, and the phone is the big int, right? So the maximum length of the integer number of my phone is up to 20, right? The maximum length of the ID or the integer is 11, right? Anyhow, I can drop the column, or I can drop the whole table from here, right? Or I can change the particular I mean column, or and I can change the attributes of that particular column, right? For an example, if I want to make this column as a primary key, right? So I can do something from here, right? attributes, or I think I need to restructure this. Okay, so from here you can actually modify, or you can actually see the structure of your table, right? That what are the various type of columns of your table, right? And what are the various kind of data types of your table, and you can change the attributes of your table, or you can drop the specific column from your table, or you can also drop the whole table, right? You can also assign the primary key to either of your columns, right, from this option, right? So then what is the next step is to assign some data to your table, right? So now we can assign the data in three ways. Either we can shoot out the data from our Java's program to this table, right? We can write a query in a Java program, and when we run the Java program, it will send that particular query to the database, and the database will decode or execute this query and insert the data sent by your Java's program. Or we can make use of this console in order to insert the data into this table, or you can simply add the data by simply clicking this insert option, right? So you do have the three options, right? So to make it very simple for the first time, what I'm going to do, I'm going to assign some data, right? So for an example, my ID with the Chandigarh University is 11001, right? And my name is Deepinder Singh Virk, right? And the next step is my city, right? So my city is Patiala, right? And here's my phone number, right? So yeah, so this is my phone number, right? So my phone number is 98776 right? So I can simply now press this go. I am done with the assignment of the various kind of data values, or the various piece of data to the columns, right? So I can simply click the go button, and it will actually fire the insert query automatically with my table. As you can clearly see that this is totally automated process, right? I didn't type any query, right? I simply typed the values into the graphical user interface of this local host, right? And when I clicked go, it automatically done this query typing work for me or on my behalf, and it actually inserted the data into the database. As you can clearly see over here, in the ID, I can see 11001. In the name, I can see the Deepinder Singh Virk. In city, I can see Patiala. And in phone, I can see my phone number over here. Fine. So you can insert the data number of times. So for an example, if I want to insert the data again, I can click on this insert button, and I can insert the data again by making use of this insert button, or I can type the query from the console. But our main concern is our Java's program, right? So what we are going to do, we are actually going to type a program into our Java's IDE in order to interact with our database, right? And our main mission, or our main target, is to insert the data sent by the Java program into the database, right? Or to read the data from the database into the Java's program, or to update some value into the database right there from the Java's program, or to delete some row from the Java's program, right? So this is the game of the queries, right? Your Java program will remain same, right? You do not need to restructure your Java's program again and again in order to find in order to fire the specific queries, or in order to fire the distinct queries. All you need to replace one line for a specific query, and you're good to go with the deal with the database, right? So in the PPT, let us see that what is our PPT saying, right? So we are done with the major part of the PPT, right? So let us quickly jump to the Java's program, right? So this is a screenshot of the Java's program, right? So we can I have already written a Java's program for you. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm simply going to copy and paste this Java's program from this Microsoft Word's PPT to the Java's IDE, right? And then I will explain you this Java's program statement by statement that what exactly is being happened behind the scenes. Right. So this is our Java's program, right? So let me let me drag this window slightly in this side and this window slightly in this side so that we can uh, get a closer look on our whole code in one shot, right? So the first step is import java.sql.star, right? So this is the very important import statement when we are going to interact with the database, right? So this is the native so this is the native statement of your Java's library, right? Or this is the native I mean statement of your JDK, right? So first of all, we are writing import java.sql.start sorry, .star, right? And after that, this is your parent class or this is your main class, right? And this is your main function. And please be instructed that in order to deal with the database, right, you need to enclose each every statement of your database query or the connection of your database within the try and catch block, right? So obviously, in case of some error, the database can fire some error back to the Java program, and your Java program should actually handle this error gracefully without terminating itself, right? So you need to include the database related statements of your Java program inside the try block, right? So the code of your database programming should be exceptionally handled, right? So this is the checked exception, right? I think the Kirti Joshi ma'am has already given a lecture on the exception handling, so she must informed you so she must have informed you about the two type of exceptions in exception handling. The first is unchecked exception and the second is the checked exception, right? So this kind of exception is actually a checked exception, right? So in the try block, what we did, we simply written the name of the class named connection class, right? And this is the object of this class, right? And we assigned it an instance of the driver manager, right? So the driver manager is actually another class of the SQL package, right? That actually is responsible to link your Java's program with your preferred database by using this connection string. So this is the connection string, right? Okay, so I'm repeating. Connection is a class. This is the object of this connection class. We are using driver manager class of SQL package, right? And we are using a dot get connection function of the driver manager class, and we are passing a connection string that is actually special string in case of MySQL, right? And in this I have written JDBC colon MySQL colon then localhost. I mean, it is telling that where exactly my MySQL database located, right? Is it located on the same computer on which this Java's program is being written, or is my database located into the United States of America, or is my database is located in England or Canada, right? So according to this, I need to change the local host to some public IP address, right? So I mean, as of now, we know that our MySQL database is on the same machine. So here, what we have written the local host, right? So for an example, if our database is located into the California of the United States, then we need to mention the IP address of the server that actually contains that particular MySQL database, right? So this is the port number of my database, right? So if we clearly have a look on the XAMPP's control panel, XAMPP has already assigned a port number to my MySQL server. See, in this world, in the computer world or in the cyber world, every server has its own port number, right? So the client has to connect to a specific port number in order to get a specific service, right? So as you can see that Apache server has its own port number. The first is 80 and second is 443, whereas 80 is the well-known port number and 443 is a secure port number, right? So similarly, in case of MySQL, the database server is assigned with the port number 3306, right? So 3306 actually is a well-known port number for MySQL database, right? So Oracle database might have its own unique port number, right? Or the Microsoft SQL Server might have its own unique port number, right? So this is actually a kind of IP address and the port number, right, that I have written. So I have given an address of my database. Okay, the next is the name of the database, right? So get back to the Mozilla Firefox, and this is the name of my database, right? I'm telling my JDBC driver that that please link my Java's program to the test database, right? So this is why I have written the the name test over here, right? So this is the name of my database, and this get connection method actually takes three strings into an account as a parameter, right? It takes three strings as a parameter. The first is the string of the connection or the connection string, right? That is unique for a unique kind of database. The second is the username of your database, and the third is the password of your database, right? So we have not set any kind of password, so I will leave this blank, right? But my operating system by default assigns the name of my database as a root, right? So I'm a root admin. The name or the username of myself with my database is the root, right? So we have to write root over here. However, we do not have any kind of password, so this is why the third string is blank. Okay, so we are done with the connection, right? So the next, once we are done with the connection, we need to call uh, we need to make use of the statement class, right? So this is the statement class of the package SQL, right? So I have made an object of the statement class, right? And I by making use of the connection object, I called the function of the connection class, that is create statement, right? So what is the meaning of the statement class, or what is the meaning of that function create statement, right? We need to actually pass the queries of the standard queries of the database on that particular link, right? On that particular link, right? So using this, so this particular statement will actually form the data road or the road of the data between your table and between your Java's program, right? So I mean to say that in order to make your queries travel from your Java's program to your database table, right, on this link, right, or on this road, right, you need to specify this statement, right? So this is really very important statement, right? So okay, so the next is the result set. Result set is a class of the SQL that actually allows you to read the result returned by the database table or by the database, right? So For an example, by making use of the statement object, I am making use of the execute query function of the statement object, right, or of the statement class, right, and I am executing this query, right? Select star from employee. So I think you are already very much familiar with this type of query. This is the hello world kind of query, or the very first query when we learn about the database language, right? So this query will return the whole table or the data of the whole table to me, right? So this result set will actually receive the data returned from the database one by one, column by column, row by row, and this result set class, actually we made an object of this result set. So we will iterate a while loop, right? So until and unless we do not finish with the reception of the pieces of data, those are coming from the database, we will remain into the while loop, and while remaining into the while loop, we will continue to read the data from our database, right? So here you can see that I have written the statement system.out.println, right? And here this is an object of the result set, and dot get int one, right? One means the column number one, two means the column number two, three means the column number three, and four stand for the column number four. This is because in our database we do have the four columns, right? One, two, three, and four. So this is why I tried to print four columns into the system.out.println statement, right? So because the first column is integer, the second is text, the third is text, and the four is in the big integer, right? So this is why over here I mentioned that result.getInt one, because the first column is integer, right? Second, because the second is text. So I actually return the result by making use of the get string, right? Third is again string, or again text. So I made use of the get string method, right? Okay, the fourth is the big int as far as the database term is concerned. So I made use of the get long, right? As far as the Java's term is concerned, right? So if I run this program, so finally I actually I mean I while after displaying the data from my database, or after fetching the result from my database, I simply broke the link. I simply break the link of my Java's program with the database by making use of connection.close, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to launch this program, right? And after the launch, you will be able to see that over here in the console, that it will return the data that is actually present into the database. So here we are, right? So in our console, we have successfully made a connection with our database. We are done with this, right? Okay, and secondly, we fired a query from our Java program, and the query reached out to our test database, right? And our test database decoded this query, or our mysql database management system decoded that query, right? And it returned the result, and by making use of result set class, we iterated the while loop, and we iterated it as long as we received the result, right? So we know that our table actually has four distinct columns, right? So we already specified the result, or we already specified some statements over here, right? So system so and finally we actually terminated our link with the database, right? And over here in the console, you can clearly see that whatever is present into our table is now being displayed into the console of our Java program, right? So any kind of confusion, or any kind of question till now? Please unmute your mic and please let me know that if you do have any kind of question or confusion till now. Hello?
No, no doubt, sir.
Okay, okay, okay. Right, right, right. That's great. So the lecture should be very lucid. So I always try to make my lecture very, very, very lucid. So, okay. So this was actually about the selection or the reading the data from the database, right? So what about updating the data? What about sorting the data inside the database? Or what about inserting the data from our Java program, right? So we are going to uh, write another query, and we are going to use another function in order to insert some data inside our database, right? So as I clearly mentioned over here that the code which we used till now is only able to read the values from the database, right? So in order to update the data inside the database, right, you need to make use of this statement dot execute, right? What we made use of in our last statement or in our last program, we made use of statement dot execute query, right? So you will make use of dot execute query function only and only if you are going to read out the data, right? But if you are going to do or if you are going to fire some other query other than the reading of the data from the database. For an example, if you're going to fire update query, or if you are going to fire insert query or delete query, right? Then you have to write these kind of functions, right? Statement or execute function, right? Uh, I have commented also over here line of code if you want to update the table data, right? And the statement or execute update, right? Update. So statement dot execute or statement dot execute update is one and the same thing, right? So you can make use of either of both of the functions in order to update the values, the existing values of your database, right? So I already commented over here that, or it can be done like this also, right? Okay, so for an example, if I want to insert some data or some other record into my table, I can make use of this one, right? So let us insert this from. So previously we inserted the data by making use of the graphical user interface of this local host or this PHP myadmin. So this time, what I'm going to do, I am going to write the query over here, right? So I simply copied and pasted. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to insert the data right there from my Java's program into my table, right? So this is the name of my table, and this is my query. Insert into table, right? So employee is the table, right? The values, right? So 11002, for an example, this is an ID of an employee named Raj, and he lives in Alberta, Canada, right? And this is the phone number of that particular employee, right? So when you will fire this query, right, this query should be decoded by your database management system, and this piece of data should be inserted column by column inside your table, right? And the next statement will read the data of the whole table, including this data also, right? So let us see what happens. There we are, right? So as you can clearly see into the console, right? Earlier we only had this record, right? Now we have this record also, right? So our table is now inserted with the new values. So if we go to this local host, right, and if we click on the browse, right, you will notice the changes over here, right? There we are. So ID number one. So this is the first record, and this is the second record. So we have successfully updated the values, or we have successfully, sorry, we have successfully inserted the values uh, uh, by firing the insert query right there from your Java's program, right? Okay, so let us proceed further, right? So for an example, if I want to update, for an example, the name of some employee where the ID is blah blah blah, right? So let us make use of this, right? So what I need to do, I need to simply copy this query, this unique query, right, and paste into the Java program, right? So I'm simply going to replace the insert query with the update query, right? So update employee set name is equal to Raj, where ID is equal to 11001, right? So if we clearly have a look over here into the console, that the ID, where the ID 11001, right? So the name is Dapinder Singh Virk, but I want to modify this name, right? I want to change this name, right? So because I know that Raj is already existing, right? So I can also make this name as Raj, but for now, let us write over here as Harry, right? So I want to change Dapinder Singh Virk to Harry, right? So update table name, that is employee set name, the column name, right, is equal to Harry, where ID is equal to 11001. Where clause is really very important, right? It actually filters your database, or it actually informs your database management system specifically about only and only one person or one record, right? So only the changes will be reflected only at one place instead of whole table, right? So by making use of where clause, we are actually protecting the whole column named name to get changed, right? So only name of the Pinder Singh work should be changed where ID is 11001. I think you're already familiar with this. So but nevertheless, I repeated it again, right? So let us fire this code and let us see what happens, right? So as you can see, the result is changed, right? And here 11001, it was previously the Pinder Singh work. Now it is changed to Harry, right? Okay, if we see the back end, so in the back end we can also see the changes over here, right? So the name is now Harry. So I think uh, it is clear to each and every person of you, among you, right? And now we are done with the insert query, we are done with the update query. So similarly, you can delete some record, right, by making use of delete query, right? Or there's another query, for an example, order by, right? So the order by, like for an example, select star from employee, order by city, right? So as of now, if we look into our Java's program, let me first of all copy this query over here, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to read out the values from my database in such a way that the values should be ordered by the criteria named city, right? So the column city will act as a filter, right? So by default, it will actually display me the values into the ascending order by considering city column into an account, right? So let us run this, right? So this is the previous run, right? So in this, the cities Patiala and Alberta, right? So A always comes before B, right? So Alberta, because this was the order of the table, right? The default order of the table, as you can see into the MySQL database backend, right? So it actually read out the table as it is. But now we have applied the filter of reading, right? So we want we want a database to return the result in a specific order of our choice, and we instructed the database management system MySQL to return a result that should be ordered by a criteria named city, right? So if we run the program, right, so it should return the result by city. So the Alberta should come first. Oh, okay. So we made a mistake, right? So I need to copy this from here, right? And because in order to read something, I need to make use of execute query statement, right? So I need to paste it over here, right? Okay, so this is the redundant double quotes. Okay, right, so we are good to go. So let us see what happens from. There we are, right? So you can see the Alberta, right? So it has sorted or displayed the values of the table by the search criteria named city, right? So A is greater, so A comes first than P. So the whole row is displayed first because the name of Alberta starts from A and A comes before than P. So obviously the second row actually displayed first by the database management system, right? So this is all about this lecture, right? So this is all about queries, right? There's no big deal, right? There's nothing special to learn further, right? So the important things were actually to install the database management system inside your computer system, right? And after that, how to activate Apache and MySQL, and after that, how to connect your Java JDBC connector with your Eclipse with Eclipse, and how to write the database specific program into the Java. What are the various kind of statements or the classes in order to deal with the JDBC, right? So I explained each and everything in a very lucid way already. So I think you are all clear with the Java based database manipulation, right? So everything is now depends on the queries, right? So all you need to do is to learn about the queries, that which query does what, right? So once you are updated with the query or review the queries of the database, right? So this is the only task that is left right now. So once you're familiar with the queries, that which queries does what kind of work, all you need to do is to type the query into the Java's program like that, and your work will be done, right? So this is the only piece of code of the Java, and you can modify this piece of code according to your ease, right? So rest whole learning of Java JDBC depends on the DBMS queries for data manipulation, data retrieval, right? All you need to remember the queries and write into the Java's program, but the code I send you above will remain same, right? So this is the end of this lecture, right? So till now, do you have any query? Do you have any kind of question or query?
No, sir.
That's great. Perfect. Right. Okay. So I have. Are you done with the installation of XAMPP?
Yes, sir. I have also executed all the commands side by side
Oh,
with you.
very nice. Very nice. Great. 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 Very nice. Okay. Okay. Apart from Karthike, is everyone clear, or and is everyone done with the installation of XAMPP, activation of Apache, MySQL? Yes. Okay. 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 Right. So if you are done with the installation of XAMPP, activation of Apache and MySQL, uh, the association of JDBC with Eclipse, right? And if you're familiar with the localhost or PHP MyAdmin, as I show you in the lecture, right? Or as specified into the PPT, right? Then I'm going to send you a program if you have not typed the program side by side, right? So I'm going to however, this program is already present into the PPT, right? Nevertheless, I'm going to copy and paste this program over here, right? So you can copy and paste this program inside your Java's IDE, but before that, make sure that you must have uh, connected the JDBC driver with your Eclipse or NetBeans IDE, right? And please be sure that you're done with the XAMPP activation PHP. I'm sorry, you are done with the activation of MySQL as well as your Apache inside the control panel of the XAMPP, right? And type the local host into your preferred browser, and click on the PHP My Admin, right? And there you will see a lot of databases in front of you, right? Simply choose one of those databases or create a new database according to your choice and create a table inside this, right? Um, just name the columns and just use the number of columns of according to your choice, right? And after that, just stick to the Java program and fire the distinct type of queries in order to observe the different type of results, right? So till 11:30, please please done with each and everything, right? Please get done with each and everything and try to fire various kind of queries related to DBMS, right? And revert me or ask me any kind of questions if you do have. Right, so as of now, I'm just going to stop the shading over here, right? So my screen is now disabled, right? So you're on your own now, right? And you are now good to go with the Java's database programming, right? So I'll be waiting for you if in case you do have any kind of query. Otherwise, just get done with the programming of these kind of statements till 11:30. Okay, students, I want to make an announcement that if in case you need any kind of assistance of JDBC from my side, let me know anytime, right? And I'll send you the assistance, right? I mean to say that if you are facing any kind of problem installation of XAMPP or the database inside your laptop, we can connect over the AnyDesk or TeamViewer in order to get your problem solved. Thanks. Well, here I am going to share some PPTs. Those were actually sent by the Wipro, right? So you can simply refer to those PPTs, right? So there are the various kind of things. Those are actually mentioned into those PPTs, right? I mean to say that there is nothing special, but still I believe that you must have these PPTs, right? So everything is actually same that how to actually these kind of PPTs sent by the Wipro is actually related to the JDBC introduction, right? And establishing the connection and execute the query results, how to send the queries, right? How to retrieve the result from the database, right? And they might have used their own methods or their own way to interact with the database, right? And in the PPT, they actually made use of Oracle 11G, right? But in our case, we made use of the MySQL, and because the Oracle database is actually not a free database, right? This is a licensed database, right? And so this was the main reason why I made use of the MySQL for this lecture, right? But you can make use of any kind of database of your choice, right? And this is totally up to you. So in these PPTs further, and there are the various single rule functions, and there are the various group functions, right? Order by and the various kind of delete functions, update functions of, I mean, each and everything rests in these kind of PPTs are all about the various kind of queries of the database that you are already familiar with or that you are already uh, got done with in your previous semesters. So anyhow, I'm going to send you these PPTs, right? So if you can find something special into these. So these PPTs are for your reference. Okay, so rest of everything actually depends on your own homework, right? Also, there is a mini project related to the database programming, and the name of this mini project is actually inventory. So it was actually sent by the Wipro, and I'm also going to forward this project to you, right? So if you could try this. This is all about saving some sort of items, as its name is actually um, uh, the name of the project actually is self-explanatory. Main of inventory, the main meaning of inventory is some sort of stock, right? The stock can be anything, right? It can be a stock of various kind of products, or it can be a stock of various kind of books, right? So This is all about implementation or saving a data inside the database from your Java's program and reading out or updating the data piece by piece, row by row, right? So this is all about this project. So hello students, it's 11:30, right? So it's time to terminate the class, right? I hope you have understood each and everything, right? So uh, we will meet at 12 p.m. and the class will resume from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m., right? Until now, please get done with your lunch and all kind of things, right? And I hope you are doing good with the Java database programming, right? So please leave the meeting. I'm going to stop this recording and end the meeting. Thank you so much.